Hello there, and many thanks for joining us on this edition of the program. I am Imoni Amarere. In the last couple of weeks, there has been a resurgence of security threats, breaches, attacks, and killings in different parts of the country. Of particular note are the attacks and killings in Benue, Plateau, Niger, Kaduna, and Zamfara states, amongst many others. Banditry and abductions for ransom are still rife in several places, including in the southeast, where the indigenous peoples of Biafra enforcers have been holding the populace by the jugular. The very latest in the series of security threats is the ambush and killing of 36 military officers by terrorists in Chukuba village in Shiroro local government area of Niger State, and the subsequent crash of an evacuation helicopter on a rescue mission.
And then the ambush and the firefight resulted in the death of 3 officers, 22 soldiers, while 7 were wounded in action. As a result of this, there was need for casualty evacuation, whereby the Air Force helicopter was dispatched. While that process was on, that operation was on, and inbound to Abuja, the helicopter crashed. And it crashed with 14 of the previously killed in action personnel at the ambush, 7 of the previous wounded in action personnel at the ambush, the 2 pilots for the helicopter, and 2 crew members.
Now, Amnesty International estimates that more than 123 people have been killed by violent extremists, bandits, and abductors since the president's inauguration on May 29. The Defense Headquarters has confirmed that military operations in the last 2 weeks alone have killed 28 terrorists, arrested 106 criminals, and rescued 82 abducted civilians, an indication that insecurity is still pervasive.
Accordingly, troops will continue to respond with overwhelming military force against any group that threatens the safety of citizens and troops alike. The men and women of the military will continue to put themselves in harm's way time and time again in order to protect our great nation. During the week leading to the 17th of August, which is today, the military, in the course of its operations, neutralized 28 terrorists, while 92 of them were arrested. 6 gun runners, 3 kidnappers, 6 collaborators, and 7 perpetrators of oil theft. Troops also rescued 82 kidnapped hostages and denied oil thieves the estimated value of over 870 million naira.
In yet another development, Nigeria's secret police, the Department of State Services, has also recently warned of another possible attack on the Abuja-Kaduna rail line by terrorists. All of these worrisome developments may have prompted the meeting between the state governors and the National Security Advisor this week to presumably set a new security agenda in addressing the peculiar challenges in different parts of the country. This is even as the president has named former Jigawa State Governor Muhammad Badaru as his defense minister and former governor of Zamfara State Bello Matawale as Minister of State Defense. He also designated Seidu Akali as Interior Minister, while Ibrahim Gaidam, former governor of Yobe State, will take charge of the Police Affairs Ministry. These three ministries are without doubt very critical to the security of Nigeria and the safety of its citizens. Nigerians have for years lived under the cloud of fear from one form of violent threat or attack on or the other. And the expectation and hope is that the Tinubu government will bring them the much needed succor. This much was promised during the electioneering campaigns. And so on the program today, we shall examine the unabating insecurity in the country and look at new strategies that could be brought to bear in addressing the situation. Is the president putting round pegs in round holes as far as the security sector is concerned? Big question, and many more questions that we'll be attempting to find answers to on the program today. Join us. When we return from this break, we shall be meeting our guest analysts. Let's get to meet our guest analysts, three of them. Two of them are right here with me in the studio, and the other is joining us virtually via Zoom, all the way from Yola. We have joining us from Yola, Professor Jude Momodu. He's the Director, Center for Peace and Security Studies, Modibo Adama University in Yola. Thank you so much, Professor Momodu, for finding time to join us.
Thank you so much, Imoni Amari.
All right.
For inviting me to be part of this conversation.
You are most welcome. Well, joining us here in the studio are two experts in their various fields. First, from my left is Mr. Michael MBANEFO, who is a security analyst. He's a lawyer by training, but he's very much vast in security issues. Thank you so much, Mr. MBANEFO.
Thank you
for
very
joining
much.
us. Also joining us is Mr. Van de Fan Tezu James. He is a retired senior police officer. Thank you so much, Mr. James, for finding us time to join us. Of what our guests here in the studio think of what is ongoing, Mr. MBANEFO.
Okay, my take here is that the relationship between politics and security of a sovereign state is intricate and multifaceted, in the sense that I listened to what Professor said, but to an extent I beg to disagree, because if guns were not outlawed, only outlaws will carry guns. The security service chiefs and the rest of them have just been put in place. It's a new system, and for the people who are causing internal security instability, have premeditated to carry out those dastardly actions before the time it happened, coincidentally, at the advent of the new service chiefs. If you take, for instance, a situation where you have the national security policies and so on are implemented by, it determines the agenda of a new government. And it is based on the priority that is being given that those security agencies will swing into action. And also it requires a very firm leader who can take decision no matter who horses God, bearing in mind that the civil society can begin to echo, talk about the government killing people arbitrarily without considering the extent of impact that those security lapses are causing for the nation within the country. Again, if you look at policies that are put in place in terms of security and the diverse nature of the country, you find out that ethnicity, religion, and cultural diversity play a major role in the determination of how our security apparatus will be put in place. But if we have a patriotic mind of oneness and cohesion, I think that the security agencies will be encouraged and supported to nip the nail on the board when it's required.
Mr. MBANEFO, beyond the ethnic differences, religious differences, and in some cases, a combination of both, are there cases of pure criminality that we can easily identify?
Yes.
Because, for instance, he mentioned the Ghana boys in Benue. Each time they are apprehended and is mentioned in the media, it is that this is a criminal gang.
Okay. In addressing that, I would like to say this. There is no way a group of persons will be addressed as criminal if the substantive chief of security does not see them as criminals. The truth of the fact is that we have somehow played into the hands of the devil by not differentiating political promises to political inclusion of criminals in order to succeed whichever way it happens. I give you a case in point. You come to political scenarios where thugs, people who have AK-47, you see people who are not police officers, people who are not military personnel, and so on and so forth, brandishing even rifles that are not registered, all in the bid to make sure that their own person succeeds. How do you take back these dogs, these underdogs, back to their cages without food, without anywhere to go? The only thing is to wipe them out. But the question is, when you raise up that hand to wipe them out, can you do that? That is what turns them into terrorists and bandits. Now, beyond what my brother here said, if you arrest a group of persons who has committed an offense or who are termed criminals, without addressing the issues that brought about their criminality, and also being able to identify who are criminal and who are defendants against criminal attacks, the security agencies will not know who to attack. And being that the political figures, for example, the people that the government empower, if they don't take a firm stand and say it doesn't matter which side, because, for example, if you attack me today with a gun and I am wounded, maybe at the point the security agencies will come, I will be the one found with knife trying to retaliate. It still makes me a criminal. I am bound to take my laws into my hands. So it is for the government of every state, local government chairman of every local government, paramount rulers of every cultural leadership to stand up and say what the truth is. I always tell people in the program, I said, you can't use another man's dog to go for hunting. When the owner of the dog comes, he calls his dog by his name and it will go back. So for us to address the issues with regards to the security challenges that are internal within the country, we should forget about diplomacy and call a spade when it's time to do so. The military cannot unilaterally, without a command, go and begin to shoot people, even when they know they are criminals, even when they are being killed, until their commander is a man who is firm, who is very patriotic, who loves Nigeria selflessly, comes into play. You don't expect me to arrest my younger brother, same mother, same father, because he had a gun. He's doing something, I should go and kill him. But if I am selfless, I will set an example with him. Unless we begin to be selfless in this country, we can't head anywhere.
Mr. MBANEFO, Mr. James has just raised a very valid point, a key point about the deployment of ground troops to solving almost every security issue, as has been the case in Niger State, for instance, where we just lost a number of scores of soldiers who ought to be alive when we could have deployed drones to do just the same work. Now, do you think that the current administration is taking the proper steps? And I'd like you to take that alongside the appointment of ministers designate for these three key ministries: defense, interior, police affairs, and whether or not in deploying these people to these areas, they exactly know what is required in tackling the issues of insecurity, of terrorism, of banditry, of criminality.
Okay. I take lead from what he has presented so far, and if I understand the questions properly, you want to know whether the president has taken a step in the right direction, especially with regards to the appointments of the Minister of Interior, the Minister of Defense, and so on and so forth, and also in deploying foot soldiers in areas where ambush has occurred. The most important thing, which is fundamental, is for one to emancipate from mental slavery and inculcate in himself individual qualities of self-awareness, a patriotic nature for the sovereign state of Nigeria, bearing in mind that if those ground troops are deployed, for instance, to Niger State, where the latest incident occurred, question, will the people of Niger State appreciate that it's not an attack on Niger State people without unnecessary vituperations? Oh, they have come to kill us. Oh, because Nigeria has turned themselves into complainants. Niger State is not the first place where ambush occurred. So it has occurred in so many places, in the southeast, in the north central, in the northeast, and so on and so forth. The major problem, whether you use drone and identify the spot and begin to bombard, the question is, will the people of Niger accept that the people that are bombed are those criminals that are causing insecurity in their state? Take Southeast, for instance. Most of the billionaires, most of the big men cannot go to their town again. They want to go and have largesse in their country homes, but they can't go there any longer. Would you think that if they invite the army to come and do ordinary show of force, the people of the South, it will not rise and say they are marginalizing them? It is an internal diplomacy that is required in this instance. We have to be firm. We have to emancipate from mental slavery. We have to inculcate in ourselves individual qualities of self-awareness, realizing cohesion and oneness. It doesn't matter whose horse is God, so that we can face the security challenges accordingly. I remember Governor Otom shouting, wailing all the time how they are killing his people. Of course, what he was saying was germane. But the thing is that the political will of tackling these issues is the problem. For instance, in the issue of appointment of, is it the national security, the chief of, the defense minister, everyone is appointed according to his capacity. I remember the good book, which is the scripture. Paul was once a murderer, but for reasons best known to God, he chose him for people like him. And he was able to win souls. So whether anybody says they are capable or they are not capable is immaterial. What is important is they have been appointed. Let them come into the field and let's see what they have to do.
All right, Professor Jude Momodu, thank you so much. I'm sorry our time is up. We must go. Thank you so much for your time. Professor Jude Momodu, Director, Center for Peace and Security Studies at the Modibo Adama University in Yola, in northeast Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time. And he was joined right here in the studio by Mr. Michael MBANEFO. He's a security analyst and a lawyer. Thank you so much, Mr. MBANEFO. And of course, Vandifa Tesu James, a retired senior police officer, is also with us here. Thank you so much. time.
It's my pleasure.
And to our viewers out there, we want to thank you for investing your time with us. Please join us again when we bring you a fresh edition of the program, People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.